Come in, darling. I've been expecting you. Oh, come in. Don't be afraid. I won't bite, and you're bound to have a good time. Or my name isn't Elvira.
Yes, sirree, it's little old me, that gal with panache who rakes in the cash. Elvira, Mistress of the Dark.
With Elvira, why do you think Elvira was such a success, almost a phenomenon, really? Everybody knew Elvira.
Yeah, it really took off kind of right away, and I was not expecting it. I always sort of say that Elvira is a combination of sexy, spooky, and funny. And I don't know that there's another character out there that really contains those three elements. There are plenty of spooky, there's plenty of sexy, there's plenty of funny. I don't know that anybody has combined all three. I wish I could take credit for that. It just kind of accidentally happened. But I think, so Elvira appeals to a lot of different people. She appeals to the people who are into horror movies. She appeals to the even kids, because she's kind of a very goofy Three Stooges kind of vaudeville humor. And then she appeals to the old dudes who like to see cleavage, so I get a very wide audience.
And let's face it, you would be angry too if somebody gave you a Bozo the Clown haircut, okay? Well, that's about a wrap on Frankenstein's Castle of Freaks, the movie that put the sick back into classic. I think I like the original better, but if you're expecting to see that one show up here on Movie Macabre, don't hold your breath.
I was thinking this morning, to go along with that, was in the 80s when she really took off. I say she as if she's someone else.
I say she too.
Elvira took off in the 80s at a time when cable TV was really kind of exploding. Mm-hmm. Not everybody had cable just a couple of years before that. Right. But then, by the time, we had the USA Network, the Fox Network was new. There was a lot of new channels coming out.
Right.
Because before that we had ABC and NBC and CBS.
I remember those days, 3 channels basically.
And maybe PBS.
Yeah, if you're lucky.
But I was thinking Elvira kind of came along at the same time as Hulk Hogan, Morton Downey Jr., Married with Children. There was this whole little era of
Pee Wee Herman, I might throw in there.
Yeah. There was just a new era of funny, strange little things on cable. It was really, I think cable had a lot to do with it, because I would run into people who knew Elvira, and you wouldn't expect them to know Elvira. And I was thinking it's because they had cable.
That's interesting. I mean, that's a good point you bring up, because unless you were on one of the major networks in a big show that they were funding and creatively controlling, you couldn't get seen. You couldn't be anywhere. Right. I was like a super low budget little show with a couch and a couple candelabra, and looked like it was filmed in somebody's basement, and I would have never been able to get that on a network. How would I do that? And same with all the people you're mentioning, Pee Wee, Hulk Hogan. How could they might have great characters, but how did they get them seen? There was no internet, and there were no TV stations until cable came along. So yeah, there you go. If not for that, I probably wouldn't be around. Same goes for the internet too. I saw my character kind of waning, and with the advent of the internet, everything bounced back. Here I am again.
The undead Elvira coming back from war. Well, prior to you and Elvira, horror hostesses were mostly local. They didn't really go national.
No, totally local. There was nobody that was national at all. The one host that had gone the farthest was Zachary. and he was in the tri-state area of New York. So he like went into 3 states, and that was about it. So until I came along and we were able to get a deal syndicating our show across the country to all these little stations, like you mentioned, the cable stations mostly. Yeah, that was the first time people had seen horror hosts, that weren't just filmed in their little town,
Yeah, it was like every city had their own.
Yeah, and people still think I was in their city. It's so funny how many people think, oh, hey, you used to do your show in Chillicothe, Ohio, right? And I was like, no, but everybody, so many people do think that I was their own little local horror host. And I think that's part of the appeal.
Now you know why I'll take a good axe murder or a vampire story over one of these sci-fi jobs anytime.
Let's run a playback on this whole thing from the beginning.
Oh no, for heaven's sake, no more reruns, please.
People like it. It seems friendly, it seems low budget, and people enjoy that. It's not big and splashy with a ton of money put in it and CGI and
Right. I remember I grew up near Boston, and we actually had 2 horror hosts on competing. Yeah, the Ghoul.
Who'd you have? The Ghoul?
Yeah, the Ghoul, and another guy named Simon. They were battling it out for viewers. And Simon turned, from what I read later, Simon wanted to do summer stock.
Wow.
So he left his horror hosting job to go do a production of Shakespeare or something, and so the Ghoul stayed.
He should have set his sights a little higher, I would say.
Now, when you created Elvira, what was distinctive about her was the Valley Girl voice.
Why, don't tell me you went out and splurged. What is it? Let's see. It's a pizza pie. Mmm, how yummy. Oh, and it's pepperoni and mushroom, my fave.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you pull that from? How did you choose that voice for her?
Well, I was in the Groundlings at the time, and that's a comedy improv group that's very well known here in the LA area. So many famous people have come out of that, famous actors. It's insane. If you ever Google groundlings.com and look at their alumni, you'll just be amazed about who came out of there. So I was in the Groundlings, and at that very moment, that song came out, the Valley Girls, that Frank Zappa and his daughter Moon put together. And it was a huge, huge hit. And that's when I started doing a little character, the Groundlings. It wasn't Elvira, but it was a really sort of dopey actress who was going out on interviews and everything, and I started talking like the Moon Zappa, song. And so that stuck a little bit when I started the Elvira character. I kind of used that voice. It's calmed down more. I don't use it quite as much. I still say things like, "Oh, gag me with an axe" and stuff like that. But yeah, I directly got that from them. And it's so funny. I just ran into Moon Unit Zappa just a couple of weeks ago at a party. Haven't seen her since she was like a young kid, and yeah, we reminisced about that. I told her I think I ripped her off, but she said that she was okay with that.
It's interesting because I thought there might have been a Groundlings connection because Lorraine Newman.
Oh yeah, I know very well.
I think she was one of the founding members of the Groundlings, maybe. Sure. But she used to do a Valley Girl on Saturday Night Live.
Mm-hmm. It was a very popular voice then, it was a whole new thing. And the funny thing is that here in LA, in the Valley, they really talk like that. Right. There are girls over there who really at that time talked like that. Now they have a new speech pattern out in the Valley. It's like they end every sentence they say in a question. So every time you talk to them, it's like that, which is kind of a holdover from the Valley Girl.
Right. It's funny, if you had been in New York instead of California, I wonder if Elvira would have had more of a New York accent.
Probably, I'd be talking like that. I don't know. I'd be in the movie. Hey, what's up?
Hey,
Yeah.
I'm the Mistress of the Dark.
The dark, you know. I don't know. I think Rodney Dangerfield already stole that thing. So
Yeah.
yeah.
What was it? What was it like behind the scenes when you were doing the Elvira era? Was it an easy job? Were there ever any disputes with anybody about
Well,
you know,
there were.
yeah.
The main one being Mila Nurmi, who owned the character Vampira. And initially, the show was supposed to be called Vampira. I was going to play the new Vampira because she had been at this same station back in, I believe it was 1953, when I was like 2 years old. She had briefly been on the station for a couple of months hosting horror movies. And so they were going to revive Vampira's show, and they couldn't use Mila anymore because she was well into her 60s and not doing very well. And but they approached her to license the name of Vampira, and they would have paid her a weekly fee to use that name. And so I went on to do the part. I auditioned and got the role. And Vampira was not happy with the fact that they were using a comedian to do the role. She didn't want somebody funny. And she got so angry that she decided to sue me and the station for stealing her character. So
There was a lot of money too she was looking for.
Yes, I mean, it's so funny. I have the ad cut out of the newspaper. She had an ad put in the paper that says Vampira to sue Elvira. You know, lawyers, please apply here or whatever. So she got an attorney who just worked on a contingency and sued me, but it cost me $35,000, which, you know, just to defend myself. And $35,000 then, when I was making $350 a week doing the show, was like $35 million. You know, it was like, how am I going to get this money? So we borrowed the money, paid the bill, did the whole thing, and then went to court, and it was immediately thrown out. The judge just said, no, this is ridiculous. You know, you're playing a character wearing a black dress, but if the likeness is not an exact copy, it is just similar. It'd be like playing a cowboy and then getting sued by John Wayne. You know, you really can't do that. So it was thrown out, caused a lot of headaches for us in the station, but you know, ended up okay. And I still owe a lot to Vampira. She was the first horror host ever. And she set that whole thing up for all of us to follow, you know? So without her, I wouldn't be here, I don't think.
Oh yeah, I like Vampira. There are not many clips of her, but the few clips that exist are fascinating. She was very strange, very out there.
Yeah, it was. I met her. I'm here to vouch for that.
Yeah. But now they didn't call you Vampira. Was that the intention at first?
At first, the intention was going to be to have it be the Vampira show. And when we got ready to go shoot the very first show, we're all set. I'm lined up, ready to shoot my first thing I've ever done. And I mean, I've done many acting bits, but my first thing as a hosting horror movies. And in runs the stage manager yelling, the station manager yelling, "We can't use the name, stop filming, stop." And I'm thinking, oh my God, the show's over, that's it. You know, I almost got a job. And instead they said, let's just pick another name right now and keep going. So we literally, everybody on the set that day, and that included the cameraman, the lighting guy, and everybody else that was standing around, wrote down a name that they thought would be a good name for a horror host and threw it in an old Folgers coffee can. And I drew a name, and it was Elvira.
Here goes. Bullseye.
And I think that name came because that very, very same week, that song by the Oak Ridge Boys, Elvira, had been released. So I believe that's where it came from. I was not crazy about the name, I have to say. I was like, Elvira, ew. This doesn't sound spooky. Anyway, I had the name, that was it. And here I am 40 years later, still doing it.
When was the last time you put on the costume?
Oh, a week ago.
Really?
I do it all the time. I just did a big Netflix publicity. I've got a jumbotron billboard in Times Square right now, and big billboards all over Los Angeles and all over the country. So yeah, I just did that. I still do it all the time.
Didn't you have a little TV show a few years back where you were trying to pick the new Elvira?
I did. I got in my mind that it would be great to get another Elvira so I could retire. And also we thought, oh, we had this brilliant idea. We were going to put Elviras in shopping malls so that people could line up and have their picture taken with her. You know, I guess people sit on my lap and tell me what they want for Halloween.
Yeah, sure.
And we thought, wouldn't it be great to have an army of Elviras that could go out across the country and show up at shopping malls, you know, for photos. And that didn't really work out, but the show worked out. We did a 1 month long in October show for the Game Show Network, where we had over 2,000 contestants, men, women, dogs, everything in between, kids, all dressed up as Elvira. And we picked the 10 top ones, and then the show where we eliminated them until we got to the you know, our first choice. And this poor girl, she was a doll, April Wallens. She was a doll, and she was very good. And we sent her out to Nebraska to be in a parade. And what happened is the people there were disappointed that she wasn't the real thing. And we just couldn't get her any more jobs. They still wanted, you know, the real Elvira. So that was a great plan that didn't really work out for me so much.
It's almost an all about Elvira kind of thing, all about Eve, where she was going to start showing up at your door dressed.
Yeah, I know, it was a little freaky. I've had a couple of those incidents happen.
Saying, "Where's my gig?" Now, writing the book was the book. Do you consider it a showbiz tale?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think it's more than that, but I'd say 3/4 of it is me getting into show business. And I started my sad little showbiz career when I was 14. I started go-go dancing, and I go-go danced all over the country. Well, all that area really, Colorado, Wyoming, South Dakota, Nebraska. And I go-go danced at Air Force Base, Air Force Academy, Fort Collins, Army Base. All these bases had go-go girls back then. It's so strange. And then go-go girls, I have to explain to people, you were wearing a fringy little dress and white go-go boots. It wasn't what they call go-go girls today. But I started that when I was 14 years old, and then eventually ended up as a showgirl in Las Vegas by the time I was 17. And then continued dancing in shows, went over to Italy, got into a band and toured with a band for about 1.5 years as a singer. And finally made my way to LA, where I decided I was gonna get into acting. So just 30 short years later, I got the part of Elvira.
An overnight sensation.
Exactly, it just took me overnight.
Was it therapeutic writing the book, or was it a fun experience to reminisce?
You know, I had its moments of everything. There were times when I was having such a blast. I was cracking myself up. I was writing stories about my family. I think to me that was the funniest part about growing up in Kansas, and my relatives, and my childhood was pretty wacky. So I had a great time writing about that. And then, yeah, some of the other parts were difficult, and even really hard to get through. I had a difficult relationship with my mother, and I had a hard time writing all of that. Had a bad marriage that eventually ended in divorce at 25 years. That was difficult to write about. So it had its ups and downs, like everything, you know. I had moments where I was having a blast, and moments where I was just trying to pull the words out of my brain to put it down and try to make it entertaining and not boring.
Now, it seemed like the initial burst of publicity was very much about your personal life.
Yeah.
Did that surprise you, or did you think, nah, that's probably what's going to happen?
I knew exactly what they were going to go for. All the anything relating to sex is what they go straight after. And so I knew that all of those things were going to come out. and be the big headliner. But yes, I have a relationship with a woman I've been in for 19 years. Everybody says, oh, you just came out, you were gay. And then no, I wasn't gay. And I don't think I still am gay. I am still attracted to men, but I fell in love with a woman, and I don't know what to say about it. I don't think you can choose exactly who you fall in love with, you know? And it was weird for me. I had a hard time with it in the beginning. I was like, this just isn't me. I've been with men my whole entire life. I don't get what's going on here. She's quite androgynous. So it wasn't like she's, you know, a girly girl running around in high heels and dresses. She's an athlete, a former athlete, and very androgynous. And so she was really sexy to me. So we ended up in a relationship eventually. We had been friends for the prior 6 years. She was my trainer. And so that's the most typical Hollywood story in the world, right?
Right. Yeah.
Everybody falls for their trainer. Oh, yeah, you know, but she's much, much more than that. And yeah, we've been together for 19 years and it's been really great.
Talking about horror hosts, if you were around now, you are around now, if you were, say, a 25-year-old or 30-year-old actor now,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think a horror host would do in 2021? What
I think they'd still be doing exactly the same thing because people really love that. I just a few weeks ago I came out with the show on Shudder, the horror network.
Oh yeah, sure.
And I hosted 4 movies on that, and I pretty much did the same thing I've always done. And it went over really, really great. People still love it. The hard part about being a horror host now, and why there are not many of them, is getting a hold of the rights of the films.
Yeah.
That is tough. Now, somebody like Shudder, who has a zillion of them, they can have a horror host. They've got Joe Bob Briggs, they've got Svengoolie, and they can still do that. And I think if it was out there doing the very same thing, it would be just as popular as ever. I really do.
Do you think the idea of witches and vampires and devils, do you think there's anything we can add to that going into the future? What do you think horror hosts of the future will be like?
Good heavens, I don't know. I don't know. There's still great horror movies, more good ones than ever, and people are. I'm surprised that horror has become so big and it's popular all year round. I remember the time when I'd go pitch a project that was horror related, and they go, "Well, we can't show this. People only like horror when it's around Halloween." Now it's all the time, and they're making really good horror films. I think a horror host in the future might have a hard time making fun of them because there are just too many good ones out there. I had no shortage of bad horror films. I mean, they had a different quality. They were naive. You know, it was a different time, and they didn't have any special effects. The actors were more like the B movie actor, and they were so low budget. They were great fodder for jokes. I think, unfortunately, the movies are so damn good now that you can't joke about them that much. So yes, the horror host of the future might have a hard time joking about any of the stuff that's out now.
Maybe they'll have to host something else, Westerns.
Yeah, there you go.
Now, do you watch much on TV now? What's entertaining to you now?
I am, you know, this is so silly. People ask me that. I'm not a big TV watcher. I never have been. I mean, I watched it when I was a kid. I don't have any shows that I'm really, you know, that interested in right now. I love documentaries.
Yep.
I really, really love documentaries. I also love reading autobiographies. So I'm just very interested in people. Although I do like, when I'm really feeling like I need some love or something, I go on watch TV and I watch old episodes of The Twilight Zone. I love that. It feels like comfort food to me. I watched it when I was a kid, and there's something about it. I just love them. And I thought they were done brilliantly, and the writing was so smart. And so yeah, that's about it. I'm just sort of boring when it comes to that. I'm too busy to watch TV.
Oh, that's a good answer. You can't go wrong with the Twilight Zone.
Yes.
They just shot William Shatner into outer space.
I know, and I heard him talking today. I know Bill very well. We do conventions together, and man, the guy's 90. He just went to outer space. Crazy. He was very emotional over it.
Do you think he looked out the window like he does in that Twilight Zone episode?
Oh yeah, I saw the little guy on the wing. Yeah, maybe. No, he was funny. I just heard him talking today about, they came back and he was very emotional. He was crying, and I was like, Bill Shatner crying? What? This doesn't happen. He's a pretty tough old bird.
Maybe something happened to him out there.
Yeah, little guy on the wing.
Thanks for your time, Cassandra. Good luck with your book. I hope you sell a lot of copies, and I'll look forward to seeing you in whatever you do next.
Thanks so much. It was great talking to you. That was a fun interview.
Oh yeah, I almost forgot.
Unpleasant dreams.